Have you ever heard of a pot that talks? Not just any pot, but one with painted eyes that blink under running water, and a mouth that whispers riddles about the past. This is the story of the Nkisi Pot, and trust me, you won't hear it anywhere else. Long ago, in the heart of a quiet African village, there lived a boy named Oba. He was curious, too curious for his own good. While other children chased goats and played by the river, Oba spent his days sneaking into the shrine of the elders. He loved staring at the strange objects, feathers, charms, carvings, and a clay pot sitting silently in the corner. It didn't look special. Just a clay pot with crude paint for eyes and a mouth. But every elder who passed it bowed low, whispering prayers before walking away quickly. Oba always wondered, why pray to a pot? One evening, after a heavy rainfall, Oba crept back into the shrine. The roof leaked, and water trickled down onto the pot. That was when he heard it, a voice, low, raspy, ancient. It said, "The one who seeks must first answer." Oba froze. His heart hammered in his chest. Who's there? He stammered. The painted eyes of the pot seemed to glisten in the dim torchlight. Its clay mouth moved, water dripping down like tears. "I am Nkisi. Ask, and I will answer." But only in riddles, Oba gasped. A talking pot. He should have run, but curiosity pinned his feet to the ground. He whispered, "What are you?" The pot chuckled, a sound like stones grinding together. "I am the keeper of truth. I hold the beginning of your people. But only those who are brave, patient, and wise can hear it." That night, Oba left the shrine trembling. He swore never to speak of what he had seen. But of course, secrets have a way of burning holes in your chest. Within days, he told his best friend, Adis. She didn't believe him at first. A pot. Talking. "Oba, you dream too much." But Oba was serious. He begged her to follow him. And so, under the cover of darkness, the two children returned. Oba poured water over the pot. Again, the mouth moved. Two came. "One will tell, one will carry truth, one will carry curse. Choose your path well," Adi screamed. She bolted out of the shrine, crying that Oba had brought a curse on them. Oba stood frozen, his heart splitting in two. The next morning, the entire village knew. The elders dragged Oba before the council. The chief's voice thundered, "You touched the Nkisi pot. Foolish boy. That pot does not speak without reason. Now the balance is broken." Oba's knees buckled. He wanted to scream, "I didn't mean to." But it was too late. The pot had spoken. And from that moment, nothing in the village would ever be the same. Imagine being 18 years old, standing before an angry council of elders, accused of awakening something that should have stayed silent. That was Oba's fate. The morning after the Nkisi pot spoke, the chief staff struck the ground 3 times. "Boy," the chief growled, "do you understand what you've done?" Oba shook his head, trembling. His voice cracked, I didn't mean to. The pot spoke to me. I only listened." Gasps swept through the crowd. Elders exchanged worried glances. The pot was no ordinary object. It was the village's deepest secret, one even most adult one told. The oldest elder, a wrinkled woman named Momankiru, leaned forward. Her eyes, sharp like an eagle's, pierced Oba's soul. "The Nkisi pot only speaks when the past refuses to stay buried," she whispered. The people murmured in fear. What past? What secret? No one dared ask. Oba's father stepped out from the crowd, shame written across his face. "Forgive him," he pleaded. "He is just a child." But Momankiru shook her head slowly. "No. He is chosen. The pot does not waste words. If it spoke, it means the boy has a part to play." Oba's stomach knotted. Chosen. He didn't want to be chosen. He just wanted life to go back to chasing goats and eating roasted yams with Adis, but Adis wouldn't even look at him. She sat beside her mother, eyes red from crying. pointing at him as if he were already cursed. The chief raised his hand, silencing the whispers, then let him prove his fate. Tonight, Oba will pour water over the Nkisi pot before all of us. If it speaks again, then the gods themselves have marked him. The village roared in shock. Oba's heart sank. He wanted to run. He wanted to vanish into the forest. But guards held him tight. That night, the shrine was crowded. Torches burned, shadows danced on mud walls, and the Nkisi pot sat in the center, staring with its painted eyes. The chief pushed Oba forward. "Do it, boy." Hands shaking, Oba lifted a calabash of water. The whole village held its breath. He poured. At first, nothing happened. Just the sound of water trickling. Relief surged through him. Maybe it had all been his imagination. Then, the pot's mouth twitched. Its clay lips moved. "To know who you are, you must seek where you began. Follow the river to the stone that bleeds. There you will find the truth of the village." A cold wind swept the room. Mothers clutched their children. Men muttered prayers. The elders froze. Moman Kiru's voice cracked. "It has begun." The chief looked down at Oba, fear hidden beneath his stern mask. "Boy, tomorrow, you leave. Take nothing but your courage. The river awaits." Oba's heart raced. He hadn't asked for this. But the pot had chosen him, and the village would not stand in its way. The journey to uncover the origin of his people had begun. Oba didn't have a choice. By dawn, the whole village gathered to watch him leave. Mothers clutched their children close, fathers muttered prayers, and Adis hid behind her mother's wrapper, refusing to meet his eyes. Oba's father pressed a small bundle of food into his hands. "Be strong, my son. The river knows more than men do. Listen carefully." With nothing but courage in his chest, Oba stepped into the forest path. The air was damp, filled with the cries of distant birds. Every snap twig made him jump. Still, he followed the sound of rushing water, heart pounding with each step. Hours passed before he reached it, the great river. It flowed wide and strong, glittering beneath the sun. And there, at the bend, he saw it, the stone. It stood taller than a man, dark and smooth, yet from its center trickled a steady stream of red. Oba's breath caught. The stone was bleeding. He crept closer, trembling. The air felt heavy, charged, as if unseen eyes watched him. His mind screamed to turn back, but his feet moved forward. He touched the stone, warm, wet, pulsing like a heartbeat. Suddenly, his vision blurred, the world around him twisted. The river darkened, the trees vanished, and Oba found himself standing in a strange clearing. Before him stood figures, men and women dressed in hides. Their faces painted with ash. They were not from his time. They were from the beginning. One of them stepped forward, voice echoing like thunder. "We are your ancestors. The river carried us here. We built your village on this stone, sealing our blood within it. The pot keeps the memory, for memory is power." Oba's knees shook. Why? Why show me? The ancestors' eyes burned into his. "Because your people have forgotten. They take the land, the harvest, the peace, but they forget the blood it cost. The Nkisi pot cannot stay silent while truth is buried." The vision cracked like glass. Oba stumbled back, gasping, finding himself once again at the riverbank, hand still on the bleeding stone. His clothes were damp with red streaks. He had seen it. The truth, but then, a hiss behind him. Oba spun around. From the shadows of the trees, a snake slithered, scales glinting. Bigger than any he'd ever seen, its eyes glowed gold. It coiled near the stone. Guarding it, the boy froze. His heart thundered. He had no spear, no shield, nothing but his bare hands. The snake bared its fangs. Instinct screamed run. But another voice whispered in his mind, the same rasping voice of the pot. To run is to lose. To stand is to claim. Oba swallowed his fear, lifted a stone from the ground, and faced the serpent. One way or another, his journey had only just begun. Oba returned to the village at sunrise, his feet caked in mud, his eyes wide with things no child should ever see. The people rushed to him, whispering. Some reached out to touch him as though he carried blessings, others pulled their children away as if he were cursed. The chief raised his staff. "Speak, boy. What did you see at the river?" Oba's throat was dry. He looked at the crowd, then at Momankiru, whose wrinkled eyes urged him to tell the truth. "I saw the bleeding stone," he said softly. "And I saw them. The first ones. Our ancestors." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even the chief stiffened. "What did they say?" Oba swallowed hard. "They said this village was built on their blood. That the Nkisi Pot holds the memory of it. Because memory is power." The shrine fell silent. Then, without warning, the Nkisi Pot began to tremble. Its painted eyes glistened. Water dripped though no one poured. And once again, it spoke. When greed came, the blood was hidden. When peace came, the truth was buried. Forget not, for the land remembers. The pot's mouth opened wider, and a rush of sound filled the room, not just words, but cries, chants, songs from long ago. The people clutched their ears. Children screamed. In the midst of the noise, visions flooded their eyes. They saw warriors falling in battle, women wailing by the river, elders cutting their palms to seal a covenant with the land. They saw the bleeding stone glowing as blood soaked into it, and then, the worst of all, they saw betrayal. One ancestor stood apart, smiling as others died. His greed led invaders to the village. He hid his treachery behind a mask of loyalty, but his blood was also bound into the stone. The vision ended. Silence fell heavy. The pot whispered one final riddle. The village was not born of peace, but of sacrifice. To remember is to heal, to forget is to bleed again. Oba staggered back, tears stinging his eyes. He felt the weight of the ancestors pressing on his shoulders. The chief's voice cracked. "So, all this time, we have lived on borrowed peace." Momankiru nodded grimly. "Yes. And now the pot demands we face it. The truth cannot stay buried." But the villagers didn't all agree. Some shouted that the boy was cursed, that the pot had poisoned his mind. Others swore the ancestors had chosen him to save them. Fear spread like wildfire. Adi's mother pulled her close, whispering, "Stay away from him. He will bring ruin." Oba's heart sank. He had given them the truth, but instead of unity, it was tearing them apart. That night, as torches burned low and arguments still echoed, Oba sat alone by the shrine. The Nkisi Pot's painted eyes stared back at him. It whispered softly, almost like a lullaby, "The curse is not in me, child. It is in the heart that refused to remember." Oba closed his eyes, knowing the worst was yet to come. The days after the pot revealed the truth were darker than any storm. The village that once sang with laughter now trembled with suspicion. Neighbors glared at each other as though everyone carried the stain of that ancient betrayal. Some villagers whispered, "The boy has brought a curse." Others insisted, "No, the boy is chosen." But one thing was certain, peace was gone. Oba walked through the market and felt the eyes on his back. Children who once played with him now hid behind their mothers. Even Adiz, his closest friend, avoided his gaze. It was as though the truth had turned him into a stranger. One evening, the chief summoned the elders. The Nkisi Pot sat in the center of the shrine. Quiet, but its silence felt heavier than thunder. The chief spoke, "This truth divides us. Do we keep the pot, or do we destroy it?" The room broke into chaos. Some shouted, "Destroy it. Let the past rest." Others cried, "No. The ancestors demand remembrance." Oba listened, heart pounding. He had seen the visions. He knew the pot wasn't evil. It was only a mirror, showing what people didn't want to face. But fear makes people blind. Suddenly, a man stepped forward, Okoro, a wealthy farmer known for his pride. His voice was sharp. "The boy is being used. This pot is a trick. Why should we live bound to the dead? Let me end this now. Before anyone could stop him, Okoro seized the staff and raised it high to smash the pot. Oba leapt forward. No, he cried. If you destroy it, you destroy the truth. And the curse will not end, it will spread. The staff froze midair. Okoro sneered, Child, what do you know of curses? Then the pot itself began to hum. Low, deep, shaking the ground. Its painted eyes glowed red. Water spilled from its mouth though no one poured it. Destroy me, and blood will fall again. Keep me, and the choice is yours. One must bear the weight, or the village will break. The night after Oba agreed to carry the memory, the village was restless. Fires burned low, drums were silent, and everyone waited to see what the Nkisi pot would do. But inside the shrine, the pot sat quiet, as if satisfied that its bearer had been found. Oba lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His chest felt heavy, not with fear alone, but with the weight of a choice too big for a boy. Why me? He thought. Why not the chief or Momankiru? But deep inside, he knew the answer. The pot chose not the strongest, but the one who would listen, yet not everyone accepted that choice. While the village slept, Okoro crept into the shrine. His eyes glimmered with greed. Why should a child carry such power? He muttered, when a man like me can use it to rule. He lifted the Nkisi pot. At once, the pot's eyes flared, water spilling from its mouth. A voice boomed, rattling the walls, thief of memory, betrayer of blood. You are the curse reborn, Okoro screamed as the pot shook in his hands. Shadows spilled across the floor, twisting into figures, warriors, mothers, ancestors whose blood had built the village. They circled him, their cries filling the air. The people woke to his screams and rushed to the shrine. They found Okoro riding, clutching the pot as if it bound him. The chief shouted, Drop it, fool! But Okoro's pride would not let go. Oba stepped forward, trembling but firm. Let me end this. He poured water over the pot, and instantly its mouth moved. The bearer must choose, bind the memory to himself. Or let the village bleed, gasps erupted. Momankiru's eyes widened. Oba, if you bind it, the visions will live in you. The weight, the pain, the truth, you will never be free. Okoro groaned, falling to his knees. Take it, boy. If you dare. Oba's chest tightened. He looked at his father, at Adis hiding behind her mother, at the villagers whose lives trembled in his hands. He didn't want this burden, but he knew if he turned away, the curse would tear them apart. With shaking hands, Oba touched the pot. I will bear it. The shrine erupted in light. The pot's painted eyes closed for the first time, as if finally at rest. A rush of voices, memories, and visions poured into Oba. Wars fought, sacrifices made, betrayals endured. He cried out, but he did not let go. When the light faded, the pot was silent. Its mouth sealed shut. The curse was gone. Okoro lay motionless, his greed having consumed him. The villagers bowed, not in fear, but in gratitude. The chief spoke softly. From this day, the boy carries the memory of us all. Oba stood, trembling, tears streaking his face. He was still a child, but now he bore centuries of truth. And though the weight was heavy, his heart whispered one thing, better I carry it than let my people bleed again. The Nkisi pot never spoke again.